When did you fall in love with this crazy world of pro wrestling?
I was a little kid, and it was probably one of the first memories I could probably ever recall that I ever had in my life watching wrestling on TV. It was Macho Man and Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and the whole spectacle of it. I absolutely loved it.
Awesome. Who? Yeah, you obviously mentioned Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior. Were those your favorites growing up, or did you have others?
When I was very young, those are the characters that really strongly appealed to me. I really liked the energy that they put out. They were all very eccentric characters. And as a kid, um, I loved anything that was eccentric. I mean, I was just attracted to cartoons that were loud and crazy. And I mean, you name it. I grew up in the golden era, in my opinion, of cartoons. We had Ninja Turtles, we had Ghostbusters. There was this really cool cartoon show called Cops that used to come on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. And it was so ahead of its time, actually. It was like a future apocalypse of these police officers with cybernetic like limbs and powers. It was like something at a Blade Runner, and the whole criminal organization had them too. But wrestling to me, as opposed to that, it was like, oh my God, these guys are real. Like I love Batman, I love Spider-Man, and I love Superman, but I know those are just actors. With wrestling, I was like, oh my God, I don't know if Superman would really be able to hang with Macho Man, Jake the Snake. I mean, it was so cool. It hit differently in the type of programming that I watched as a kid versus the cartoons and movies I grew to love.
And then you were raised in the East Coast, correct?
I was born and raised in New York.
New York, obviously, just down the street from the MSG, where a lot of WWE big shows were happening at the time.
Yeah, I
Was
lived a
that
little bit in New York City, and I lived a little bit longer in New York State. When
okay?
I was little, New York City was very crazy at night. I mean, like it was really, really crazy. It was like Escape from New York with Snake Plissken. It's very different now than it was when I was little. So we wound up taking a couple steps back and went into New York State, where things were equally as crazy, just a different kind of crazy.
Awesome. So obviously you kind of grew close to where WWE was performing a lot of times. Was that always the goal for you is I want to get there?
I don't necessarily know. It was always a dream of mine to become a pro wrestler, and it was something that I always wanted to do, but I've always remained open-minded. I come from a family with like a multicultural background on both sides, and I never really fell into like a herd mentality or felt very tribal growing up. Um, my dad was always into boxing and wrestling, and my mother was in the office world, and there was always different types of people from all different walks of life that they were friends with, and I never really had sort of like a single lane to think in. So I was open to doing a lot of different things. I loved art, I loved drawing, I loved painting. I loved music. I loved playing music. At the end of the day, as I grew up, I began to realize that I actually really liked to create things that other people would enjoy. Like at a point, even when I was little, I stopped drawing pictures and painting for myself. I would start drawing things and painting for my family. And with music, if I liked the song that I was attempting to play or attempting to write, it didn't really matter as much to me as long as someone else I was playing it for really enjoyed it. And so I think that coincides with the wrestling thing. I could possibly think I had the greatest match I've ever had in my entire life, but unless the live audience enjoys it and people watching at home enjoyed it, then it holds a different value to me.
Awesome. Yeah, and obviously a lot of people know you for your run with WWE and some of the stuff you were obviously doing in the Indies as well. But it's for me, it's safe to say that the run you had with NXT when you first got there was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Well, what are your thoughts on what you and Scarlett were able to accomplish at that time?
It was really a great honor, specifically to be performing that time versus any time because it had its challenges. We essentially debuted as the whole COVID thing was taking off with lockdowns. So we didn't even really have an audience to react to the first time we even walked out there with our entrance. But our phones were blowing up of people watching it on TV. A lot of people who couldn't go outside or were sick or were afraid or you name it, a million reasons why people couldn't go anywhere or do something. We were there and we were working, and we felt so grateful to have the honor to create some sort of entertainment, some sort of purposeful escapism so people could get out of their heads and just not think about something negative for a brief moment in time. And we do a lot of conventions and Comic Cons, meet and greets, and even just people, especially in Florida and Las Vegas. If we're ever just walking around, people will come up to us and say, "I loved everything you did, but I wanted to let you know, getting to see you guys come on NXT during lockdowns every single week was one of the only things that was helping me not go crazy." And for a total stranger to say that, man, like that's like I can't even put a price on that. So it was a great honor, man.
Awesome. And again, thank you for what you guys were doing. Obviously, a lot of people really needed that at that time. So obviously we appreciate that. Um, you guys went away for a little bit and then came back in 2022, right? And you guys were put immediately in the main event picture with Drew McIntyre and even like having a moment with Roman. What was going on as far as the planning for that?
Couldn't really tell you because I'm not part of how they plan things, but I had heard a series of different ideas of where that could go. And at the time, there was an idea of that becoming a triple threat. There was another idea of Drew and I working a third match. Um, but yeah, there were several ideas that people were running by us, but I don't think anyone was entirely committed to one. And then we had heard that there was someone had returned to creative who wasn't very kind to me in the first place. So, me and all of Hunter's new rehires suddenly started being written in circles into oblivion or just not even being on TV. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. It seems to be out there on the internet now, but we've been biting our tongue about that for a really long time. And we don't like to stir things up, especially me. Like when you guys put wrestling on, I really don't want you to be thinking about the gossip and all of the this, that, the other things. Like everyone has challenges in life. Pro wrestlers have challenges in life. People who have 9 to 5 jobs and work over 40 hours a week have, challenges. When you go into a restaurant, the waiter doesn't come to the table and tell you about all the problems that are going on in the kitchen that day and last week. So I never go out of my way to bring this stuff up. But if people ask, I really don't want to lie to them. You know what I mean? Like I try to find a classy way to tell you what you were what you were thinking was happening was entirely true. That's exactly what happened. So
Oh, okay. And then obviously you still were involved in some pretty good storylines even up until the time you guys left. Was there a storyline that you were like, oh, I really enjoyed this that you were able to be a part of in the main roster?
I really enjoyed working with Sami Zayn. Um, More for how the audience was reacting to me. I was written in as this villain in the show who was barely seen, barely heard, doing a lot of commercial break material that was only airing online or unless you had a premium subscription to Netflix. And some of the viewership on that online was actually outperforming some of the viewership metrics that were on the show. And that's all I credit that to the fans, just really seeing not just Karrion Kross, but the guy, Kevin Robert Kizar, behind the character, really trying to give you something to be entertained by with the very little amount of time that I had. And them showing up in droves, starting the We Want Cross chant. And even beyond that, man, everywhere I go, especially the independent shows, there are casual fans that maybe even just recently discovered WWE on Netflix. They just didn't watch wrestling and now it's on Netflix, so they're trying it out. They didn't even know about what independent wrestling was. And so they're following me on my socials and Scarlett. And now they're following us to the conventions, to the meet and greets, to the wrestling shows, and they're seeing this whole other world. So, in a way, there's just a massive group of fans globally that have followed me to everywhere I've been going. I've been performing all over the world. I'll be doing a tour in Australia in May, which I'm very excited about. We just got back from Western Europe and Eastern Europe, and I'm sure if not this year, next year we'll be touring Asia. But I would have to say that Sami Zayn program, but not just for what we were doing on TV, but how the world changed around me and how I changed with it, and how it still is continuing to be with me as a result of that.
Awesome. That was actually going to lead into my next question is that I really enjoyed the kind of the program you were doing with Sammy and even with AJ as well. It just felt very different from anything else at the time. And what was, I guess, what was the idea of you of that you were trying to that you guys were trying to portray with those segments?
Well, I would play off of the material that I was given week to week. So I can't tell you I had necessarily, I knew where it was going to be going, but I would just try to adapt to the literature they gave me. And I had a lot of flexibility in the literature they gave me because they were enjoying what I was doing and they could see how it was performing. They know how to track everything. And I would generally run everything I was doing by the people I was working with and explain the concept of what I'm trying to do. If you watch the program, you can see sometimes how certain people that are always on the PLEs, they keep them busy with other performers to rack up wins or losses or whatever. They keep them busy during the weekday shows, and then there's the big blow off match between the big good guy and the big bad guy in the PLE. Well, I was someone that they would write in to keep people busy. And when I had AJ, I just told him, I said, I'm going to try to make this as interesting and as compelling as possible while I have the privilege to work with you. And he was all for it. He looked out for me. AJ looked out for me in so many different ways that I'll never even be able to talk about. It's too personal. And he looked out for me, especially professionally. He's an even better person than people could possibly imagine. He has a really good heart. And for a guy who has been in this business for as long as he has, I cannot even imagine the things he has seen. As good as he is, as successful as he is, he still, behind closed doors feels like a really relatable, grounded person. And so I'll tell you, I part of me, uh, part of me when I was working with him was incredibly frustrated because he told very few people that he was going to be retiring at the Royal Rumble. He didn't know where the Rumble was going to be at the time when he was talking about this, but he just thought it would be appropriate to do that then and there. And just knowing that was going to be his last WrestleMania, and it has nothing to do with Logan because I actually do like Logan. We've always gotten along. But I was frustrated that his last WrestleMania was going to be a loss because we're not going to get him back again. And so I talked to the writing team and I spoke to AJ and I said, I'd like to breathe something authentic into the material that we're being given today. And I'm not going to express it like that, but I can express that emotional distress through the character Cross feeling like, hey, AJ, I actually have no problem saying you are the best of us and there's no one better. And you're representing us. So you better not lose to this guy. And then Cross's reaction to AJ losing, not taking the left-handed path, so to speak, not cheating. And on the backside of it, AJ saying, sometimes it's not about that. It's about going out there and being authentic and sincere. And something AJ and I wanted to do at that time was AJ would be the angel on my shoulder because we felt the crowd coming with me even then, even before Sammy. He pointed it out as well. And he was saying it might be a good pivot finally. It's been 2.5 years. The crowd is attempting to turn you. They're trying to turn you. They enjoy the commitment that you're portraying to this character. Let's let them have you the way they want to see you. And I was like, I'm all for it. Let's give them what they want. Unfortunately, other people had other opinions, so that didn't exactly happen the way AJ wanted to do it. But whenever I think about the Sammy program, I also think about the AJ program since they were back to back. And I had such a limited amount of time with him. But I felt like we got a lot of really entertaining, compelling stuff out of it. And people bring it up to me all the time and always warms my heart, man.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's always interesting talking to to like some of you guys when you guys bring up AJ, and it's you guys say the same thing. He's like he's even better than you would think he is, and it's like always cool to hear that from you guys. Obviously, towards the end of your stint there with WWE, there was all the fans were really getting behind you and wanted you to be pushed more. Then you also heard during one of the at the end of one of the PLEs, they start chanting "We want Cross." You kind of referenced it a little bit earlier, but what did that mean to you?
It meant the world to me, you know? Like I said, I was barely seen in relation to other people who are hyper featured, right? That's what I mean by that. I had very few lines, and I did my best to make every word mean something. And the character was written to lose a lot. Usually, you know, people like to get behind the winners, whether they're good guys or bad guys. They like to root for them. They kind of live vicariously through those performances and stuff like that. So the fact that they were cheering for someone who was almost never winning, who was a bad guy, and was not seen very often, to get an ovation like that was unbelievable. And I'll never forget that, man. And that follows me everywhere. Like most major shows that I've been working on, the independents, they start that stuff up every single time I walk out, and I love it.
Um, what's I guess what's your thought process now of like where you're headed in your career and like what do you want to just accomplish moving forward?
I don't necessarily think about it in those terms. Like, I'm not allowed necessarily to promote certain things that I'm doing or I'm committed to until the company launches the first promotional stuff first. But our schedule is like pretty tight, like into next year. Most of our, I mean, all of our year was booked out this year by December of last year. We have tons of work coming in, and what I'm looking at doing right now is continuing to do exactly what I'm doing currently, which is performing in the manner that I know people want to see me perform in, being the presentation of that character, or even more of myself in the ring and less of a character. Just sort of like to quote Steve Austin, he really said it best, just being yourself with the volume turned up. I'd like to continue doing that because the results it's producing have been incredible. I really like the Comic Cons and conventions, which is crazy for me to hear me say out loud because I grew up as an introvert. Even though I like to perform, dude, I'm gonna tell you, I have a very low social battery, even from my friends and family. Like I burn out quick, and I wish I wasn't like that. You know, I have people, oh, why don't you have a drink? You dude, you give me a drink, I'll be asleep in 20 minutes. I'm just a very mellow person. And so, but the Comic Cons and the conventions and the meet and greets have been awesome because now I'm getting one-on-one feedback from people that have been watching me for over 10 years. And they're, you know, it's different than reading stuff online, which is very nice. And sometimes it's not nice. Sometimes it's neurotic. But I mean, I had thick skin. I told you I'm from New York. A lot of the times I laugh at the stuff. Like my friends and family and I, we berate each other. So there's nothing I'm ever going to see online that we haven't said to each other in person. But I want to keep performing all over the world. We're going to be doing another European tour at the end of the year. We're going to be touring Australia. Just keep doing what I'm doing. I've loved every second of being able to go to these new countries. I was just recently in Prague for the first time. That was incredible. We did a meet and greet there. We were in Manchester, performed in Romania for the first time. They don't get a lot of pro wrestling, and there's a massive wrestling fan base in Eastern Europe. And I know the economy is entirely different. So for like a massive wrestling corporation where they have such a high profit margin, they're looking to nail that might not be the best place for them to go. Like, you know, what comes in versus what goes out monetarily. It might not be worth it, but for me it is. It is worth it to go. And I'm going to try to help improve these markets by doing performances there, especially with Scarlett. And being independent has just been very good to us. I'll tell you one thing. I learned a lot when I was in WWE about being a return on an investment. You know, like they contract you, and then they create all of these different lanes on how they can make money off the performers through merchandising, social media clicks that monetize into revenue. I mean, you name it, bobbleheads, toys, T-shirts, and stuff like that. I learned a lot about it, and then I began thinking like, well, all of the financing and money and revenue comes in through the audience and how much they like the characters. And then you begin to think, well, they can only like you as well as how you're written and how often you're seen. And so WWE is just this massive global platform, but it's also a massive intermediary between the audience. And they pull in a lot of audience. Like I said, it's a global platform. So as soon as I became independent, I began thinking about how they would monetize all of us. And I just said, well, I can do that actually. I actually can go out there and I can contact all of these different vendors or different vendors independently. And I can help create, if need be, finance these items and materials for people independently. It doesn't have to be through the company. Set up your social media channels, learn how to monetize them, all that type of stuff. All that type of stuff can be done as an independent. Obviously, there's a potential to make an extraordinary more amount of money working for a massive wrestling company that has distribution, but I never really got into this to be, super rich and have generational wealth. It'd be great if that happened. You know what I mean? You could put three generations of your family through school and buy them homes. That's all fine and dandy. But really and truly, you can give me all the money in the world, but if I can't perform the way I know the audience wants to see me perform, I'm not going to be happy. And if I'm not going to be happy, I'm probably not going to do it.
Absolutely. And then just wanted to talk a little bit about Las Vegas and WrestleMania. Um, Obviously this week, Las Vegas is like front and center with all these wrestling events that are happening here. You being a resident here now, what does it mean? Obviously, you're going to be at WrestleCon. There's WrestleCon. There's a bunch of other events happening for WrestleMania and other wrestling promotions. What does it feel like to be a resident here in Las Vegas and to see it be center stage for pro wrestling?
It really makes me happy because what a lot of people don't realize if you're not a local Las Vegas resident is that the economy is very strongly based on tourism. That's the kind of city Las Vegas is. So if we have lots of people from literally all over the world coming to Las Vegas and they're spending time, they're spending money, they're having a good time. They're engaging with the entertainment district and the casinos and the hotels, and they're going to all the other things that people don't even think about, like the hiking trails. I mean, it's not all just madness in Las Vegas Boulevard. Nevada has a lot of beautiful things about it. I personally love the hiking trails. Um, it's good for everybody that lives there. It's good for the state. It's good for the economy. It's good for the culture. So having a massive wrestling event there where the entire industry will follow suit, all the independent companies, it's good for everybody. I'm very happy that they're doing it again. I know some people are like, "Oh, again." I'm biased. I'm sorry. I can't join. I can't join you with that. But it's definitely a good thing. Well, Scarlett and I will be at WrestleCon Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then I will be running two shows. The first show will be Mecca, which will be at the HyperX Arena inside Luxor Hotel, which is right across the street from WWE. And the second night, I'll be running Natural Born Killers, which is a combination of mixed martial arts and pro wrestling all combined in one. There will be no pinfalls. It will just be knockout, submission, or TKO.
Awesome. Awesome. And then just one final question. Uh, Obviously, when you think WrestleMania, you think WrestleMania moments. What are some of your favorite WrestleMania moments?
I mean, I guess I gotta go to my two usuals. I mean, it's not necessarily a moment, but I really enjoyed the Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper match for the IC title back in the day. I really enjoyed the story they told. I loved the tension that the two of them had, and they told this nonverbal story of emotions and frustration about being related. And Piper like knows he could take the match from Brett if he just cheats a little bit. Then he has this moment where he's like, "This is not. I don't want to do this." And then Brett beats him, but Piper still carries him out of the ring. I think that's got to be like, for me personally. I'm not saying it's the best, but for me, it's the one that stands out the most. I love that story. That's that's got to be the one. And I really thoroughly enjoyed Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle as well. I thought that was an excellent story that was told as well. I'm a story guy. I really, really like. I like the. I like long-term storytelling. Most wrestling fans do. I'm not sure why that's going away,
Yeah.
but